Are there any nominations?
Yeah, I'd like to put myself up as a candidate.
Do we nominate a seconder?
I suppose it depends how many nominations there are.
All right, well, I'm prepared to stand again if we want me to, but I suppose we should have person seconder.
Why not? It doesn't harm, does it? Maybe somebody could.
I would propose Ross.
Vote Henry.
So, do you want me to take the vote?
I think we should.
Okay, do either of you want to say anything about what?
Well, I have had the opportunity to have my say. Henry, that's just what I say.
Well, I think I'd like to have a term at it. I think I may have something to offer. I don't know. I should be judged on that if I'm successful at a later date. But,
In that case, you and I should be good.
So, do you wish to discuss anything, or do you want to go straight to a vote? Okay. So, hands up please for Ross. Okay, hands up please for Henry. 3, 4. Okay, so that's 4 in favour of Henry, 1 in favour of Ross. So by majority,
Yes.
Henry. Okay, would you mind calling me back in, please?
no white smoke.
No.
There's no outfit for the job either.
So by majority, the council has voted Henry as chair.
That's fine.
So,
Shall we swap seats?
I'm happy to say, no, you stay there, please. I think one of the important things I would like to say about chairman is that the chair is just there to facilitate discussion. It's not to say they're in charge. So I suppose I can stand up, couldn't I?
Of course.
Well, everybody else has stood up so far, so I shall. So thank you very much, Roz, for the last couple of years. It's a thankless task, I suspect. I'll find out. Being chairman, and I know you're a busy lady. You know, we've known each other for 31 years. Did you know that? 31 years.
Something like that.
Yeah, and you know, that's when we moved into the village 31 years ago. And I think it's fair to say we agree on a lot of things, but we don't agree on everything. And I think in the parish council context, not agreeing is a very healthy thing. You know, I think it's important for democracy that we do have discussions. I believe there are many parish councils that consist of a load of old duffers who just mostly agree and don't have much of a a conversation. So I'm glad that that's not us. Obviously, we're not old duffers. We're
Younger.
young and youthful people, you know. But there we go. Most of the stuff we talk about is fairly mundane, but occasionally things come along that we can actually do something about. So it's my understanding, maybe Karen, you can tell me a bit more about this, the new government setup that they're talking about.
They are. I'll come on to that in my report.
Yeah, but I think they're suggesting that the parish council may get a bit more of a say.
That's what I understand,
In
although
matters,
there's no
so-
hard concrete evidence of that yet, as with lots of things, the devil will be in the detail.
Yeah, so I think it's important that, you know, the parish council does have lively discussions and that we you know, we can be meaningful and actually do something. So I don't know how I'll do as chairman. All I can say is I'll do my best and endeavour to encourage participation and debate. I'll share information with everybody who's interested. If I step out of line, I hope my fellow councillors will tell me, and equally if anyone in the village wants to give me constructive feedback, I will listen. Right, I've got a question here for everybody. What do you think is the most important attribute of being an airline pilot? So I've been an airline pilot for 41 years. I've been a training captain for about 25 years. And I want anybody to hazard a guess at what I think is the best attribute of an airline pilot.
Being able to fly.
Health.
Well, health, yeah, that's probably good, yeah. You could have said skill, good looks, or daring and that sort of stuff, but no, go on.
I think wherever you're in for has got
No, what I was going to say, the most important attribute of an airline pilot is to be able to admit mistakes. Pilots make mistakes all the time, but you learn by your mistakes and you correct them and everything is good. And so I hope to apply the same thing to being parish council chairman. So I'm sure I'll make mistakes, hopefully people will point them out, and it'll all be good. Anyway, let's crack on with the meeting then. So we've got a whole load of stuff here to get through. So let's have a look. So the first thing, vice chair. So we haven't actually had a vice chair. Has anybody had volunteered? Is anybody wanting to volunteer to be vice chair? Okay, Alex is volunteering to be vice chair. Do we send Alex out again? How do we do this? If nobody else is volunteering, I guess that makes sense, doesn't it? Any issues with that?
I'll nominate Alex.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
seconded.
Are you happy to move to vote, or do you want discussion about
Do you want me
the
on the ring?
nomination?
I can.
Maybe just step out
Yes.
just for a brief.
No one else is standing. There's not much point in the vote, is there?
But you've got
So
to.
while he's out of the room, we can slag him off.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's good to have some younger blood in the parish council, where none of us is enough youth. Let's face it. I mean, I don't think it's an issue that he's same family. I mean, it's a small village. I don't think that's an issue. Unless anybody thinks it is. Does anybody feel there's an issue there? Great.
Just take a vote.
Okay. I'll vote for him.
Okay.
Unanimous then. Thank you. Am I against communicated?
Yeah, definitely.
We'll do those after the meeting.
Okay, right. So on the agenda then is completion of declaration of acceptance. So we can do that after the meeting. There's no need to do that straight away now. To receive apologies and any applications for approval of absence. Well, we haven't had any apologies because we're all here, so we can move swiftly on from that then. So item 3 then, public forum. So we're all fairly used to being here, aren't we? So public forum basically normally limited to 15 minutes to talk about things on the agenda. So does anybody have anything on the agenda that they would like to talk about? No, no talk on there? Oh, sorry.
Could I just ask a question?
As long as it's not a difficult one. If it's a difficult one, I'll get Alex to answer it.
It's a very easy one.
Yeah,
Henry, and it concerns your good self.
yeah.
As you now are chair, will you also continue to be the representative for communications?
No, that's a very good question, and probably not. I'm probably going to get Alex to do that.
Okay.
Unless you have any comments on...
No, I'd just like to know who it's going to be.
Yeah, okay, it is on the agenda, choosing who does what, a little bit later on, if you've got the energy to stay for that. Hopefully it shouldn't be too long. So, well, I'm amazed that nobody wants to talk about motion 9.1.1.2, paragraph 5, subsection 2. It's particularly exciting. No, sorry, I'm being facetious as usual. So what I like is, we could theoretically talk about things that are not on the agenda, but we couldn't take a decision on and vote on it. But I think it'd be quite a good time to point out that people could perhaps bring something up if they wanted to talk about something to put on the agenda for next meeting. So, it's just good to encourage people to talk really and take part. Anyway, good. So we'll move on then. That's excellent. So, Karen, if you'd like to say a few words. First, before you start, I'd just like to say, how hard Karen works. I think we all know Karen anyway, don't we? She works really hard, was rushing around from village to village, and thank you for getting here in good time for us tonight. And thank you again for the grants you've managed to sort out for the playground. That's very much appreciated. Anyway, please.
Stand up so I've not got my back to you. So I'm Karen Soons, you elected me 8 years ago as your county councillor. I think most of you know who I am. I've just been today locked down on all my IT, because I was meant to be up for election last week, but because the government in their wisdom decided to delay the elections a year due to devolution, I've stayed in post, but of course all my IT doesn't think so. So it said no. So I apologise, I haven't got my report, I'm going to have to do it from memory. So I apologise if you then look at my report and think, oh, she's got something wrong. So I will do my best. With that said, devolution is the thing that most people are unsure about, and I think the government haven't given that much flesh on the bones. So devolution is the government saying that Suffolk is fast-tracked as one of the areas, the few areas in the country be fast-tracked for devolution. So that's a process in which you get rid of the county and the district council, and then you impose 1, 2 or 3. And it's meant to be unitary, 1, so I don't know why it's possibly 2 or 3 if they say it's unitary. Doesn't quite make sense, but anyway, the name aside, which is not terribly descriptive, if you go for 1, which the county council has voted for, 1 unitary authority, you would replace the district and the county council with 1 overarching unitary authority. So then the next tier of government would be parish or town. So that's quite likely. Parishes and town councils may have more say, and I suspect they will, although there's no detail from the government yet. So that being said, the county council's got 75 councillors, and the district councillor's got 68 councillors. And with the unitary authority, we think, we don't know for sure, that if they go for 1, then it's likely to be about 120. So it would be about 10 down on what we have currently. But the government can only delay the elections for 1 year because that's what statute allows them to do. But if you think that the elections will be delayed for 1 year, then in 1 year after that, the district elections happen. It's very unlikely that they're going to run the county council elections and have people elected for 1 year to then scrap them. So it's highly likely that, and I think it would be for sure, that they'll delay them another year and then coincide the county and the district together. But then the government also says that they want to have a shadow authority with whatever Suffolk decides when the consultation comes out, which you'll be able to have your say, and the parish council will have their say. Possibly a shadow authority of the unitary shadowing the district and the county. So that would be then 3 years delayed. So, but the government haven't said. So we'll wait to see. Unless they then change the law to allow them to do that all at once. So when the government decides, and there will need to be a boundary commission change as well, and they've just spent 2.5 years redrawing the county boundaries, so they'll have to scrap that and redraw the boundaries for a unitary whenever they decide. That I don't think they can do that within 1 year because they haven't started yet. So along with the unitary authority, there will be a directly elected mayor, and that will be directly elected by everybody, the people. A bit like the Police and Crime Commissioner are elected at the moment. And that person will represent Suffolk and Norfolk together. So, and that could be a different colour or different political persuasion than the unitary authority. So that's just to bear in mind. I think the government have already said that that's going to happen, and I don't know the duties of that mayor, but there are areas, mostly urbanised conurbations, like Manchester, Birmingham, who have directly elected mayors. But there are some areas recently who are the areas, rural areas like Staffordshire, that have gone for as a unitary, and that apparently is working quite well. More detail than that we don't know. But I'm happy to take any questions on devolution if you have any questions on devolution.
What powers will the mayor have?
So I don't understand what powers they have, and the government hasn't put any flesh on the bone on that. I think it'll be a little bit like representing the people for the whole of Suffolk, and representing people's views to the unitary authority, although I'm suspecting there will also be a chairman of the unitary, or chairperson of the unitary authority. I was making no gender specific. I'm a chairman of something and I call myself chairman, so apologies if that felt gender specific, it wasn't intended to. So I don't know.
So is the unitary authority going to cover both Suffolk and Norfolk?
No, and this is where it's terribly confusing. You will have a directly elected mayor, elected by the people of Suffolk and Norfolk, and then you have, if in the consultation it goes one, and if in Norfolk it will go one, then you have two. But one for Suffolk and one for Norfolk, but one mayor. So I don't understand why you'd have a mayor for two counties, which are very separate and very, I mean, Norfolk's enormous.
Right. So, sorry, the whole concept of devolution, and the way I see it, it seems to have come through quite quickly.
It has, yes.
And I asked a question at one of the seminars that I attended online about this. The benefits of devolution,
Yes.
in terms of cost savings, better usage of buildings,
Yes.
economies of scale, then they always come forward as being the benefits of devolution.
Yeah.
But then when you actually ask anybody, well, can you name a specific cost saving, a specific number of jobs that will be saved, a specific, they can't name anything. And then when you say about what is the benefit of the mayor, they always, the ones that I spoke to, have always said, oh, well, they've got mayors in big cities. They always say Andy Burnham.
Yes, I know, he's been touted around a lot.
I mean, really? I mean, there's a bloke in Manchester, Andy Burnham, and he's a famous mayor, isn't he? But I, for the life of me, can't actually pin down any tangible benefit that's going to come. Will we know before devolution gets, whenever it takes place, what those benefits are, where they're going to come from, what the savings are, and how the people are going to benefit from devolution?
I'll do my best to answer that, and it won't be a definitive answer, it will be my view. Okay, and I do not seek to influence your view on how you vote, because it must be how you vote within the consultation. My view is that you have the district council, and they do your bins, and they do planning, and lots of other things, but essentially they do those things, and they do social housing. And then you've got the county council, and they do adult social care, children's services, and highways, essentially, those three. And if you mash those together into one unitary, think about those children in care, the most vulnerable in our society. Children in care who have the most horrendous start in life, have been in care, have not had the opportunity to be adopted, they've stayed in the care system, they finally graduate out of the care system to be told there's no council house because they're not joined up. And then they get stuck in a bed and breakfast, which is inadequate. They could be at risk, especially girls, and the data supports that girls are more at risk. That's not a gender-based specific comment. And then that poor person, that poor young person, could end up on the streets. I'm hoping that with a joined up council, you've got a seamless transition for that poor young person who's had the most awful start in life to actually get some support transitioning at the most difficult period of their life, becoming an adult, going from 16 to 19, and they don't have to make these awful choices and be put in inadequate accommodation. I think that is one of the great savings of devolution, is joined up thinking, joined up services. And then you don't have the strategic planning done by the county council and actually the planning on the ground done by the district council. You'd have that done by the same department.
I'd love that as a vision.
Yes.
But on the basis of joined up thinking in terms of the roadworks and things that
Yes.
we go on around here, I don't see much of joined up thinking anywhere in government, to be honest with you. And so I love it. I love it if that happens as a result of what you're saying. I'm just a bit sceptical.
And financial information tied to that, I don't have any, because everybody's contract will be different and everybody's contract will be with the district council, will be with the county council. So that is going to be a huge piece of unpicking. Then of course I'm the chairman of pensions for the county council, and that what will happen with all of the pensions and all of the employers, 326 employers within the Suffolk Pension Fund, that is all up for unpicking and sorting out. So it is a huge piece of work to do.
This seems such a drastic change to how our democracy works.
Mm.
Do we actually get an opportunity to vote whether we want this? Or is
So
it
that's-
a fait complete?
Well, like all consultations, you can say what you like. The government has fast-tracked Suffolk.
But consultation isn't the same as having a democratic vote.
I understand you will not get a democratic vote saying yes or no. You will have a consultation to say 1, 2 or 3, is what I understand, but it hasn't come out yet.
So after the consultation, who makes the decision?
I think the government.
So we haven't really got a say, have we?
Done deal.
I mean, that seems wrong to me. There's such a huge change that we don't get.
I agree
We
with
get
you.
to comment in a consultation, but we don't get to actually cast a vote. I think
Yeah.
that's really sad.
I agree with you. I mean, I guess you can cast a vote without a mayor. So if a mayor, but then that would be for 2 counties. So, I mean, the one thing about having a unitary authority is that they will pitch and argue for Suffolk for money. If you've got 2 or 3, they will be arguing against some other people for money for Suffolk. And I think that would possibly not benefit Suffolk in that you could potentially get opposing views and not the money to the one area. You could get a mix in several areas, and that wouldn't be great for people.
I suppose you could say that one of the reasons that we've had such trouble with that roadworks is that the roadworks was Suffolk highways, and the housing was West Suffolk.
Well, that is what I would agree with actually. So you've got the planning department approving the planning, but not doing the joined up thinking of highways. And I would hope if that was within the same unitary authority, you would get better dealings with that, because you would have, absolute people in the same building making those decisions.
And the other issue that might be useful is that this area is hugely water stressed.
Yeah.
There are no reservoirs. There are plans for reservoirs, but they're not in Suffolk.
Yeah.
So if we had somebody with an overview of the East Anglian region, that might be.
So that might be something that might come with a mayor.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah. Yeah, but again, there's no flesh on the bones, or there's no additional information yet from the government. I do feel that it's probably going to be slightly pushed back. I cannot see it happening in a year. I think even 2 years is a stretch, to be fair, because there's no. The Boundary Commission haven't done a boundary review. Well, the boundary review took 2.5 years last time. Well, they're not going to do it, suddenly turn around and say we're going to do it in a year. It sounds unlikely to me. But then I'm not the decision maker. Maybe there's somebody much cleverer than me out there working on it.
There's a lot of carts and horses in this process.
There
I
are.
do think it's a question of making sure you try and get the horses in front of the
Yes.
carts.
Yes, yes.
You know what I mean?
And you won't have them running off.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the field.
Well, yeah, someone
Indeed.
else.
I
Yeah.
don't see how you fast track a plan that isn't fully worked out yet.
Yeah.
It's,
And if you don't have your ducks in a row,
Nope.
then one of them's a chicken anyway. So
That would be one reason for responding to the consultation, that
Yes.
you could come up with ideas as to how it would be worse or better.
yes, absolutely. But what I would say is, please, everybody put your views forward in that consultation, and the parish council will have a slightly stronger view, but it will again just be one submission. So all of you together put your submission in as well, in addition to the parish council.
Yeah.
So if there are no more questions on devolution, but I'm happy to take any more if people think of any more later.
Is Suffolk a guinea pig in this process? Are other counties in?
Yeah, I think there's about 6, just from memory, I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, about 6 areas that have been fast-tracked. I can't remember which of the other ones. Well, Norfolk must be one of them, because I think maybe Norfolk and Essex are the other ones. I think it's sort of being done regionally, but we're not being asked to go in for a directly elected mayor with Essex. I mean, Essex is a very big county. Their pension fund is much bigger than ours here in Suffolk, which indicates that they've got a much higher population. But I'll just...
I'm sorry,
No.
Just, when's the date of this consultation? So
We still haven't got that information. I know, I'm sorry, it just seems
Right,
ludicrous
okay.
I'm standing here.
No, but if you could let us know, as
Of
soon
course
as you
I will.
know,
Yeah,
then we
yeah.
can have a parish council response
Yeah.
and spread information. to the
Absolutely,
village to,
yeah, well, I will,
get into
yeah.
the
So Karen, is the combined population of Norfolk and Suffolk in any way equal to Essex or to...
I have to Google that. Sorry, my computer in my pocket could tell me if I was on Wi-Fi, but I'm not.
No.
So I'm sorry, I would have to. I think probably Norfolk and Suffolk combined are probably slightly larger, because Norfolk pension fund is very, sorry, I'm talking pension funds as well, but Norfolk pension fund is much bigger than ours.
Right.
So I think, is Norfolk the same as Essex?
But
I think they're smaller.
Yeah, but Essex, there's parts of Greater London that are certainly Essex.
So they're
And
very high population.
That's where
Yeah,
you're-
I think Essex will be higher, but I don't think it's the equivalent of us. But I'd have to Google it.
In fact, you've been talking pensions. The report that was in the papers about how much this had the whole thing had a potential of costing.
Yes.
Are those numbers realistic, or was that just papers?
Again, I would have to run some analysis on it. So, I'm
Because
certainly
those numbers were frightening.
they were frightening, but that's worst case. And I haven't seen any analysis yet from our pension fund or anything like that. So I probably can't comment on that. I'm sorry, it's not terribly helpful. But if there are no further questions, I've just gone to 2 things in my report, and I'm sorry, because I've been locked out of my IT, I don't have it with me, so you have to bear with me. Highways, and I know you have worked very hard, and Henry has worked particularly hard on keeping everyone abreast and fighting for everybody's voice and the parish council's voice within the road closures, and I think you've done an excellent job there. But we'll see, the devil will be in the detail of what we can get fixed afterwards will be. And certainly I'll be, right there with you, in the trenches trying to fight for whatever we can get there. That aside, M Group Holdings has taken over the highways contract at the beginning of the year, and they have had a 20,000 extra report. So they originally had something like 20,000 reports in last year, and for the financial year to February, the end of February, they've had 40,000. So they've had an extra 20,000 reports, and they've repaired, I think, an extra, on last year, 10,633 from memory, extra potholes. So I don't know if you feel you've seen an increase in the repairs. I feel I have, because I drive and commute to Adams every day, and I see the potholes in Cambridgeshire. I have to swerve so my wheel doesn't go into a crater, not just a pothole, but a crater, and rip my wheel off. So I feel it's better, and M Holdings do a 40% inspection rate, whereas the previous Kia contract did no inspection. So I think, as a previous contracts manager, I think that's a good thing, holding the feet to the fire and getting the key performance indicators done and making them improve. If something's been done not correctly, they inspect it and then they call them back to fix it. Whereas before, it was like the council was marking their own homework, which I don't think anyone marking their own homework is going to be great, because everyone's going to give themselves an A, aren't they? Well, certainly not a D. So I think that's improved. The devil will be in the detail and the proof in the pudding when we get a bit further into the summer. But please do keep reporting that on your online reporting tool and send me the automated response, and I'll chase it if you feel that it should have a better response. The only other thing I will say is that the County Council has been given access to £7.3 million for putting in EV points. So there's details in my report there. I used to be an EV driver until I sold the marital home while I got divorced. And then I couldn't put an EV point in my new flat because it was in a block that was grade 2 star listed. And my management company couldn't agree, the residents couldn't agree, and I didn't even bother going to ask for listed building and planning permission. Because if I couldn't get the residents to agree, and I couldn't get the management company to agree, there's no point paying for the other two. So I felt, even as a county councillor, I couldn't get that in place to be more eco-friendly within my lifestyle. I had to sell my car and buy a petrol car to commute back and forth as a healthcare worker in Admirals. So I do think the infrastructure is not there, and I do welcome this £7.3 million over 2 years. But if it's something that you're thinking about putting in here, I know a lot of community facilities have put EV points in.
I'd like to revisit that, certainly. We marginally went against it last time, but we'll perhaps revisit it.
I mean, Tuddenham have put EV points in. It might be that you want to do a sort of little recce out there.
Tuddenham is a beautiful village hall. And
It
has
is.
A lot of
I was a parish councillor when they first mooted that village hall.
yes, it's
Yeah.
very smart.
Tuddenham, and I know because I was parish councillor there for 12 years, they were gifted the land. So they had quite a big head start. They were gifted the land, and the developer was a Tuddenham lad, now a man, and he built it for cost. So they had quite a good head start. And I think most parishes don't have that benefit of those two things, gifted the land and doing it for cost. And when the school was closed, we as a parish council managed to prove that I think it was the foundation trust of the village were entitled to 33% of the value of the site when it was sold, because the county couldn't prove that they could find the conveyance. So it is worth fighting these things. What I would say is it took 6 years to fight it, but look at the village hall that was built. It is worth fighting these things, but it might kill you in the process. And I think it probably nearly killed some Tuddenham parish councils in the process, to be honest.
The thing is there a deadline for agreeing or asking for charging points?
Have a look at the report. I can't remember.
Right.
Yeah.
If we had it on our next agenda in a couple of months' time.
I think that would probably be fine.
That'd be
Just from memory, but it might be worth you looking that up first.
Thank you.
But £7.3 million is actually quite a lot. So. But any other questions or comments or anything maybe not that I mentioned or anything on my report that I forgot to mention? Happy to do any questions.
Can I just ask, I think when we were talking about the A134, John Clements said he'd be on the case for sorting out the repairs for
Yes.
Bell Lane, which there are quite a lot of repairs required. Thankfully, because it hasn't been too wet, it's not as bad as it could have been. It could have been absolutely horrendous.
And have you been relentlessly hammering that report into with the reports? Because that's what they're going to audit.
Yeah. And I've got video evidence as
Yeah.
well, so of before and after. So,
Yeah, good. That's how you hold their feet to the fire.
So,
So completely unrelated. Yeah, you were very kindly going to follow up for us about the planning enforcement at Woodlands.
I did follow up and I haven't heard yet. We
Yeah.
haven't heard yet, yes. Yeah, I did email Marie Smith, she's the head of planning now at West Suffolk Council.
Good to keep
Yeah.
pushing away that way.
Catherine, would you send me a reminder email? Because when I then get finally back into my emails, when I phone Ipswich tomorrow, then I can get onto that. Anything else? Are you happy if I go and go?
great, no, thank you very much, Karen.
All right,
Thank you so
thank
much
you.
for all the hard
And
work you do for
congratulations
us.
on your election. And I know that, Ros, you've been a super chairwoman. I say chairman, sorry.
I say chairman, it's fine.
I'll put my cup away. All right, thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, next item on the agenda, 3.4, police. I don't think we've had any input from the police for quite a few
No.
years, have we?
I've just put in the clerk report, there's the link to their up-to-date
Tell us how many months.
missive for what it's worth. Yeah.
Okay, well, there's not much we can do about that, I guess. It's Great, okay. Section 4, declaration of interests. Are there any personal prejudicial interests from any of the councillors? No? In that case, 4.2 is irrelevant, so we move on to section 5. Section 5 resolves the minutes of parish council meeting dated the 8th of May. So that was last week, and it was to do with the planning application up near Ros. And those of us that were at the meeting were Alex and Jim, myself and Ros.
Well, I was present. But
You were present, but you weren't voting, were you? Are we all agreed that that was the minutes up there? Yes. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Right, so matters arising, anything to say on that?
I did list some bits out in the clerk report. I think a number of you visited the Quintus River Minute Solar.
Yes, indeed. And Alex did a little bit of a write-up on that.
Yeah, I sent that round the went on the village WhatsApp. I think you sent it via email as well, maybe.
Yes, I did. I think to summarise, nothing's happening until 2029 by the sounds of it. Is that true?
Yeah, they're trying to put together a whole piece around the sort of revenue share. Though it looks like that pot of money would be controlled by them, and then suggestions are put to them around what that is then used for. But as you say, they're awaiting their time slot to be joined up to the grid. They are planning to put the line in from the development to the substation behind the BP garage underground the entire way, no pylons, which will be quite the undertaking, I'm sure.
Yes, I asked the question how much they think it's going to cost and how much they budgeted, and they said 5 million.
Yeah.
You mean BP garage opposite
Yeah.
the garden centre?
Yeah.
Correct. So that's quite an undertaking to go underground all the way there.
Yeah.
Because my worry was they're going to start putting pylons
Is
over
it
the
possible that they're saying that at the moment?
What
But that's likely to change.
So what they've said
Yes, I
is
think it might.
if they're able to make a connection via another development or something else in the meantime, then they would piggyback onto that. But their current plan and what they're sort of working around at the moment is that they would go on halfway underground directly to that substation.
And I asked the question, are they planning to sort of put a very big wire in, so that if somebody else, for instance Rupert, thought, oh, well, I've got a field, I could plug into that. And her answer was, oh no, we're not doing that, we're just doing ours.
Well, that's
So that's a typical lack of joined up.
yeah, they've said that the ducting
Yeah.
they could share down the line, but the cable itself they wouldn't.
Yeah, but I think once the roads will be put back together again, I don't know whether they can get to the duct afterwards. I'm not sure.
They may be able to do that via a feeding system, but
Maybe.
there's other points in the report that went round with regards to ecological aspects of it, the biodiversity net gain that they're talking about. There's a whole area that they don't plan to put new panels on. Deer fencing will go around in the entire site. There won't be any lights or sort of bright infrastructure in there to affect at night time, and there wouldn't be any battery storage or anything on site. It would all just be feeding straight to the substation. But yeah, that's what I can remember off the top of my head. As I say, the rest of it in that document that went around.
Okay, right, should we go on to the...
Do you want me to just, the other matters arising?
Oh yeah, please.
The countryside stewardship went in a few days ago. There was a suggestion at an earlier meeting this year about a footpaths leaflet, which I don't know what's happening with that really. And I haven't done the YouTube channel yet.
Okay, well that's sort of work in progress,
Yeah.
isn't it, I think. But hopefully we can get... Sorry, Alex, you say something.
Technically we have, Catherine.
Well, yes.
It's set up, it just needs videos and things to go on there, and then once they are... So this is the repository of the recordings that we're taking at the parish council meeting, so those will go up on a YouTube channel, and once the most most recent ones have been uploaded on there. Those will be disseminated around the village via village WhatsApp and email, so that people, if they want to go have a look at those and refer back, those will be available.
You enjoyed it so much the first time. You know, well, quite.
They're quite long videos.
And that's why we're thinking YouTube, because if you try and put it on a website, it just wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, the file would be entirely too big, and then just bloats up the website.
There are several on the old website
Yeah.
from a few years ago.
So some of the older ones could be migrated onto the YouTube channel as well, so that they're streamable.
Yeah, Vimeo.
That's it,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's the other platform. Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine. So you've done a lot with your report there.
The report will go with the minutes, so you can see those other items listed there. But it's just to make sure they don't fall off the radar.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so let's move on to reports then. So,